Now, staying in the NBA, you know the finals just ended, so you know what time it is. It's our favorite part of the time when the season is over. It's that 2022 way too early outlook. So with that in mind, okay, we just had Milwaukee versus the Suns in the finals. So usually, we gonna throw those two teams out and say we might see them as contenders. But let's think about the couple of teams that wasn't around in the finals. Philadelphia, what are we doing with them? Brooklyn, if they healthy, what are we doing with them? The Knicks was a 4 seed in the East. Maybe they come back and they get an acquisition and make some noise. Are we overlooking the 5th seed in the East, which was the Atlanta Hawks? So the East sound like it be a little. The East sound like it could be a little interesting. Let's go over to the West. The 1 seed Utah Jazz, yeah, they got bounced out, but maybe they make a move to make them a little more competitive. Maybe they don't. Just spoke about the Suns. What about the Lakers? What about the Clippers? I think Kawhi come back healthy. I think they have a very good chance of running it back for the conference finals. The Lakers, some moves need to be made, but when you got LeBron and AD, you still got all hopes. But what about the teams that was kind of forgotten that can make an impact? Golden State, for example. Steph coming back, Clay gonna be healthy, Draymond back. What are we doing with that? Or maybe do Memphis turn into Phoenix next year and they get a veteran and they go a step further? So with all that said, we're looking ahead, so we're estimating. Um, I guess I got two questions for you, Jay. The first of which team that did not make the playoffs do you think will be in the playoffs next year? And then what are the result? What are your results for the Western Conference Finals and the Eastern Conference Finals, which will relate into the NBA Finals?
Yeah, I'll start there. Give me some time to figure out what bottom of the barrel teams will be in the playoffs next year. Spoiler alert, probably is not Orlando. But as far as who I would kind of see being in the proverbial Final Four out west, you talk. I think we both like much like I said. I didn't quite believe in Phoenix like this whole way, even when they was up 2-0 against Milwaukee. I'm like, I'm not sure about this, man. I think Milwaukee's going to get it together on their home floor and make a run. And Utah, kind of the same deal, and they ended up, disappointing us and that was without Kawhi Leonard being in the lineup. So, they were both disappointing. I think both of them kind of, played a little bit. They kind of overachieved. I can see both of them taking a little bit of a step back. The Clippers, if Kawhi comes back, I think that's kind of an easy, like, I'd say the Clippers are one of the two teams I'd throw into the Western Conference Finals next year. That's, of course, dependent on assuming Kawhi Leonard comes back. Also think outside of Zubac, they don't have a tremendous amount of size unless we're serious about DeMarcus Cousins being a real part of this team. So, I think it would behoove them to get a little bit bigger, even though the small ball, it was pretty effective. Um, but the Lakers are kind of the wild card here. It's going to depend on the health of LeBron James in his 18th season, and then Anthony Davis. We know he's always dealing with different little bumps and bruises and all that. Also saw a note. I don't know if you saw it, but I saw a Chris Paul rumor to LA that could be kind of interesting.
Yeah,
I think that would.
courtesy of Magic Johnson over here.
Yeah, I think that seems like it's been almost a full decade since the Lakers had a Chris Paul trade like in the works that got nixed, and next thing you know, he's in the same building but with the Clippers.
Right.
So that, you got that angle going for you. But I think if I had to pick another team to meet up with the Clippers in the Western Conference Finals, I'm going to take a team you didn't mention, and I'm taking Denver with Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray coming back. I remember the great bubble performance he had last year. So he's definitely capable of being a big time number 2 option, if not a 1, with the reigning MVP, Nikola Jokic. And you know how much I was loving what Denver was doing after a little slow start. That they made, I really like what they did. The trade deadline, bringing Aaron Gordon in. Of course, we know Michael Porter. This is the guy who I believe can take his game to the next level. And this is a team that's they've been through it a little bit. You know, they got a lot of playoff experience now. So I think that's a team who you look at them and you're kind of like, okay, I think they're ready for the next step. Um, so I would go in the West. I'd go Denver and the Clippers, and I'm gonna take Denver right now. I think Denver's ready, and as you well know, I was ready to take Denver. I made a Denver proclamation at some point just in the regular season, and then Jamal Murray got hurt, and it went up in smoke. But then out in the East, the East is pretty compelling with we have the big. I still think it's going to be the big three. I think the big three teams that we had this year with Philly, Brooklyn, and Milwaukee. I think they'll still be there and be the top contenders. But then the East still has really good depth. I mean, I think the Knicks they got to get a little bit. They need a little bit more firepower. Maybe they do something with Colin Sexton. We talked about just a little bit last week, but they need a little bit more offensive juice. I'm not the hugest fan of the Julius Randle closeout thing they do, but you definitely like what Tom Thibodeau did in the first season. They got some really good young players. R.J. Barrett taking steps forward. I really like Emmanuel Quickly, what he showed in his rookie season. And we'll see, hopefully they can integrate Obi Toppin and he can do more than just have one highlight play per game. And then, look, Atlanta, I mean, similarly to Phoenix and Utah, I thought Atlanta overachieved this season. Trae Young showed us something. He's a star to be reckoned with in this league. DeAndre Hunter, he's going to come back, so they'll have their two-way, kind of stopper out there. Plus John Collins, Capella. Atlanta's very talented, but I think can Trae Young kind of cement himself and play at an MVP level over the course of the season? We'll kind of see how that goes. I think Atlanta could be like the fourth team that makes that jump and really like goes toe-to-toe with those other three teams. And then I think Miami's probably the wild card in the East. Kind of if I'm looking at Miami, and it's going to be interesting to kind of see how that team I really thought Miami had a chance to make a run, and then Milwaukee got them out of here quick, fast, and in a hurry. So what does Pat Riley do to respond to that? He's a guy that's kind of he's not going to fool around too long with something if it ain't really working for him. He's going to make some moves. So we'll see what he does. I think if we're going for a team that didn't make the playoffs, and we're not counting the play-in tournament. So I think the East, for me, is fairly easy. I'm going Indiana. I think with Rick Carlisle in the mix over there, with Malcolm Brogdon, with Miles Turner, Sabonis, Karis LeVert, we get him back. And then TJ Warren, hopefully he gets back too. That's a pretty good starting five. You can do a lot worse than that. So I think Indiana, they'll be back much as they kind of were a really, really good team under the tutelage of Nate McMillan. So I think Indiana out in the East, and then out West, I'm thinking about the bottom of the West, and it's just, I don't see much movement down there. The easiest thing would just, hello, New Orleans, could you please get it together down there? But something tells me that's not real. I'm gonna say Memphis breaks through. They was in the play-in tournament. Or did they? They did make the playoffs. They beat Golden State. Okay, never mind. So it's Golden State then. Golden State's the team that's going to be back in the playoffs. Klay Thompson, we assume he's going to come back. It's been a while since we've seen him. But Steph Curry's still playing at an extremely high level, in the MVP conversation. Would have had a much stronger case had, his team not been in the play-in range. So, yeah, I would go, as far as your first question, I'm going with the Nuggets and the Clippers in the West. In the East, I'll go Milwaukee. Milwaukee gets back to the conference finals, and I'm gonna say Brooklyn over Philly because I can't get that for Philly to get it moving. Ben Simmons gonna have to show me something, and I just don't have the belief in Ben Simmons. But Philly should be right in the thick of things next year, and they should be in the semifinals at minimum. And then for the playoff teams trying to get out of the play-in tournament, Golden State and Indiana, they make it back to the field of 16.
All right. So I start with the bottom feeders, as we're calling them. Um, the team. So I start with the West. The team that didn't make the play-in tournament that I do think can make the playoffs. Yes, I'm gonna go with the Pelicans. I think they had the best chance. They had a more talented team. They got a new young head coach. I think they could be, you know what I'm saying, what Zion, Brandon Ingram need to get to the next level, right? The team that did make the play-in tournament is obvious, Golden State. I think Golden State will be in the playoffs this year. They're slowly but surely getting their feet back under them. Even if Clay is not 100%, I think he still brings enough dynamic as a two-way player to catapult them. And they might very well be in the play-in tournament again. I don't know, but I do foresee seeing Golden State in the playoffs this year. When I head over to the East, the team that did not make the play-in tournament that I think got a shot at the playoffs is the Chicago Bulls. Here's the deal. I listen. I know they ain't glamorous, but what I do like is it seemed like during the trade deadline last year they was trying to put some pieces together. Now, what they put together wasn't good enough to catapult them to the playoffs last year, but I think a full off season. Players know their role. Now the coach can instill more of his philosophy. I do think the Chicago Bulls can go from being outside of the picture to inside of the picture. And then as far as the team that was in the play-in tournament, I think I'm gonna have to go with. I wanted. I'm gonna go with. I like what you said with Indiana, but I'm gonna go with Charlotte. I'm just gonna go with Charlotte because I think LaMelo Ball, he's gonna take a nice leap. I like this show. I like the way Charlotte was built. I don't think they had enough. They go out, make a move or two in the offseason, and I think they could be in the playoffs. So those are the four teams I'm looking at as far as bottom feeders getting into the field. Now, as far as my final four in the West, my final two in the West, I should say, you're absolutely right. I was gonna agree with you. Clippers versus the Nuggets. Why? I'm gonna say the Nuggets because I've been number one on this show with saying I don't believe in the Nuggets. Well, what I do believe in the Nuggets next year, and I started believing at the end of this year, is I believe in their management, their front office. Their front office seems to be working, and I gotta kind of like, if I slow it down and pay it some attention, I'm looking and I'm just like, okay, they putting these pieces together. Then Jamal Murray get hurt. Jokic, MVP. What else do they really need? I'm telling you right now, I don't see the Nuggets coming out here with this Campazzo / Austin Rivers starting lineup. That's first and foremost. I think they're gonna have some legitimate guards in there doing their thing. No disrespect to those two guys, but you ain't winning nothing with that starting lineup at guard. I'm sorry, you ain't winning nothing. I don't care if you got the MVP or not. The reason I think the Nuggets will be in the conference finals, though, is I think Jokic is going to get better on the defensive side of the ball. I think one of the glaring weaknesses for him now is, okay, you're a playmaker. You're awesome on the offensive side of the ball. You need to play more consistent defense. And I think he will work at that this offseason because that's the biggest knock. He won the MVP without it. I think he's going to work on that. He's going to come back better. And if one thing I've learned watching the NBA is if your best player is playing defense, usually everybody else comes along. That's what we seen in Milwaukee. Make no mistake. Giannis play defense. Everybody else that come in the game is going to play defense because our best player is playing defense. And that's how it rolls. So, with that said, Clippers, Nuggets, I'm going to take the Clippers in the finals. I just think Kawhi being the number one, Paul George, I just feel like the Clippers at some point are just blitz the Nuggets to where it's like the Nuggets probably, the series could go 7 and, the Clippers win because they got a more experienced closer. So I'm going to go with the Clippers. When I look over to the East, I'm a differ from you a little bit. I do have Milwaukee being a final team, but I'm going to take the 76ers over the Nets for the reason that you mentioned. Listen, the 76ers got to figure out Ben Simmons. I agree. But you know what the Nets got to figure out? Just staying healthy. We got to look at this. somebody tell me the last time Kyrie played a full season of anything. Like the dude get hurt like every season, or he just don't play. So that's not act like we don't see that. We see that. You got Kevin Durant. He didn't play half of the season this
Right.
season.
Yeah.
Remember that he didn't play, and so he did have his legs available for him when they made it to the playoffs. And then James Harden. I don't necessarily look at him as injury prone, but he does come up short in the playoffs, and he did pull that unprofessional stuff he pulled last season. So now, hopefully, he's gonna work to get back in shape and to come into the season right. I don't know though. He was in Paris, like getting arrested when he was supposed to be getting ready for the Olympics. I don't know. So I don't really know how that dynamic. But here's what I do know: when people tell you who they are, you got to start believing them. And what I'm starting to believe in Kyrie is he's never going to go through a full season healthy. What I'm starting to believe in James Harden is he's never going to finish the season strong like he began the season. And Kevin Durant, needless to say, Kevin Durant don't win anything unless he got some other all NBA players. So with that said, I feel like the 76ers kind of, for me, they have a better groove. Look, Embiid played about as good as you can play with a torn MCL, and and your running mate ain't giving you nothing. He just out here flatlining, and he did about as good as he can do. I do agree with you. Ben Simmons will be the decision maker of how far Philly go. Something tells me that they trade Ben Simmons and they get them a point guard. Some tells me that they're going to find enough suitors to maximize Ben Simmons where he get traded to. I think they're going to bring in a player that's going to be somewhat of a pure point guard that's going to be able to finish plays. So Embiid can play the way he wants to play in the paint. So, and then in the finals, I got the Clippers versus the Bucks. We're going 7. And I would take the Bucks because, you know what? One thing I can say about the Bucks is this: they're not an injury-prone team. Their star player, as we've seen, like I don't know what he got going on. We might have to test him. We might have to do that blood test on Giannis because I don't know how in the world he come back so fast and look so good. But listen, at the end of the day, Milwaukee's not an injury-prone team. The Clippers are an injury-prone team, so I would take Milwaukee to be the 2-time defending champs. And Giannis, the face of the NBA for real then. So, yeah, that said, that's my outlook on the 2022 way too early outlook, baby.